Hello, my name is Alicia and I am here to help you pronounce in Spanish. If you do not speak any Spanish, you can begin with this video, and you also have more material in the video description to start learning Spanish from scratch. We are going to see pronunciation examples, ejemplos de pronunciación, because I did some research and I found out that people in Google, they are asking, how do you say thank you in Spanish? How do you say, for instance, I don't know, garlic, okay? So I did some research and I came up with the list of words that you're going to see in this video. Words that people want to know how should they be pronounced in Spanish. So we begin with thank you. You say thank you in Spanish by saying gracias. This is the way people pronounce it generally in Spain. Gracias. But if you go to Spanish-speaking countries in Latin America, people do not lisp. Okay, so in Latin America, people say gracias. Both are correct. Gracias, gracias. You can say whatever you like best. And well, there are two main difficulties in the pronunciation of Spanish for English speakers. The first one is, well, the vowels, okay? And the second one, this letter here, okay? The letter R, which is very different in Spanish and in English. Let's begin with the vowels. In Spanish, you only have 5 vowels. A, E, I, O, U. These are the only sounds that you have in Spanish for the vowels. So keep them in mind. A, E, I, O, U. And nothing else. Just work with these 5 sounds. Okay? So when you see A, say A. When you see I, you say I. Okay? Just like this. Do not try to think with your English brain, okay? Let it rest for a little bit. Work with your Spanish brain because you're, well, starting with Spanish and you start thinking with the sounds that we have in the Spanish language, okay? So in Spanish, you say gracias or also gracias. And the second difficulty is the way to pronounce here gra, okay? This is done by doing the following. Wow. You have your tongue and you have the tip of your tongue that is going to touch your front teeth when you say gra. Just like this. You are not going to roll your tongue. You're not going to bend it backwards as you have in English when you say, for instance, rice. Okay? This movement of the tongue is not in Spanish. Rice, no Spanish at all, okay? In Spanish, you have gracias. The movement of your tongue is this. Gracias. Just like this, okay? So your tongue, this movement, it goes to the back, to the front teeth and then back without rolling backwards, okay? Gracias. And this is how it's done. We're going to see many more examples, don't worry. And, well, let's move to the second word, which is ajolote. Ajolote is this nice animal that you find in Mexico. Ajolote. You can also say ajolote. So, you can say ajolote like you would in English when you say hot, or a stronger sound which comes also from the throat and is ajolote. Both are correct. And you also have jaguar. Jaguar or a little soft jaguar. Okay? And you also have llama. You can pronounce llama with the same sound that you have in English when you say jeans. Llama. You have another possibility, which is to say llama. Both of them are correct. Llama, llama. Alright? And it's the animal llama in English. And in Spanish, to this bug, you say mosquito. Mosquito. Pay attention to the letter Q because Q is a little dangerous in Spanish because after Q you have a letter U which is written but not pronounced. So in Spanish you say mosquito. You do not say mosquito. Okay, the letter U is written but not pronounced. And pay attention, you say mosquito. You do not say mosquito. Okay, these sounds do not exist in Spanish because you only have the letter O. And this is the sound of it, O. And you are done. Alright, mosquito. You also know in Spanish that the sausage is called chorizo. This is how we pronounce it in Spain and chorizo in Latin America. Okay? Pay attention to the sound of ch. It's like in Italian when you say ciao. The same sound. Chorizo. Chorizo. And you also have paella, which is a rice dish that's popular in Spain. Paella, paella. Both are correct. And you also have ham. In Spanish, ham is jamón and also jamón, whatever you like best. Okay? Jamón, jamón. But it's very important that you stress the letter O because you see this symbol here. This symbol is telling us we should stress this vowel. So we are going to say jamón, stressing mon. Alright? And after that, you have quesadilla or quesadilla. And here you will pay attention that the letter U is silent. Quesadilla. Okay? And you have the word quínoa or quinoa. You can pronounce it this way and it's correct, but it's also very common to say quinoa. Okay? So, quinoa, quinoa, or also quinoa. And to say sauce in Spanish, you say salsa. Salsa. The same letter L that you have in London, for instance. Salsa. Salsa, which is sauce, and also the dance salsa. And you have the word tortilla, also tortilla. In Spain is a potato omelette, and in Latin America, especially in Mexico, it's a kind of flat bread. And you also have the word pincho, can also be written this way, but in Spanish is pincho. This other variation is in the Basque language that is spoken in some regions in northern Spain, but the pronunciation is always the same, pincho. Okay? Pincho is a kind of finger food, like tapas. And you also have the cheese that is called manchego. Manchego is a kind of cheese in Spain. And you also have this avocado dip, which is called guacamole. The way I pronounced is the way any native Spanish speaker would pronounce. So pay attention. Guacamole. As you see, guacamole. You will not say guacamole or something like this. You say guacamole. Alright? And, well, now we have rice. And for rice in English, as you know, you will bend your tongue backwards to make rice. But this movement is not what you do with your tongue in Spanish. To say arroz in Spanish, which also is correct, arroz, you will use your tongue and you're going to do more or less the same thing as you did with gracias. But when you pronounce gracias, you are not going to expel the air. Gracias. It's only the movement of the tip of your tongue touching your front teeth. It's a little different when you say arroz, because with arroz, you're expelling the air. And when you do so, your tongue is going to tremble and is going to vibrate, which is why you have this arroz sound, which is done with the tip of your tongue, touching the front teeth, but vibrating when you expel the air. This is how it's done. I know it's a little complicated when it's explained this way, but it's what you do. Okay, so do not roll your tongue backwards. Do not do that because it's not Spanish. Okay, it's English but not Spanish. Spanish, you do arroz. Okay, and this is what happens when you have 2 times the letter R, or also when the letter R is in the beginning of the word. Okay, well, after that we are learning ajo. Ajo is garlic in Spanish. Cebolla, also cebolla. And this ending, well, you can say boya or boya, whatever you like best. You see, Spanish is very, very flexible, okay? You have, well, you can pronounce some letters differently according to the region that you're in, okay? So, if you are in Spain, you would say normally cebolla. In many Spanish-speaking regions in Latin America, people would say cebolla instead. It's more common, okay? But both of them are correct, and people will be able to understand you if you pronounce it this one way or the other. After the onion, you're going to learn in Spanish how to say egg, and you say huevo. Huevo. You see the vowels u, e, o. And the consonants. The consonants are H, which is silent. You write it, but you do not pronounce it. And the other consonant is V, which in Spanish will be pronounced as B. So you have to put your both lips together to say huevo. Alright, I know it sounds strange, but it's the way native speakers talk. Huevo. There are some regions where people do say huevo. It's possible, but it's not general Spanish. Generally, people would pronounce huevo and they say egg in Spanish. Alright? Well, after that you have mojito, which is a Cuban cocktail. Mojito and also daiquirí. You see here, this symbol is telling us we should stress this E at the end. Daiquirí. But you can also say daiquiri. And, well, let's learn orange juice in Spanish. You can say zumo de naranja in Spain or jugo de naranja in Latin America. Both of them are correct. Zumo, jugo. And if you want to drink coffee with milk, you're going to say café con leche. And people also ask Google how to pronounce caramba. It's like wow in Spanish. Caramba. Okay, so you're going to say caramba with the same movement of your tongue, very quickly touching your front teeth as you did in gracias. Caramba. The same movement of the tongue. You're not going to vibrate here. Okay, it's not caramba, it's caramba. Simple. Okay? And people also want to know how to say Merry Christmas in Spanish. You can say feliz, feliz, both are correct, and Navidad. Feliz Navidad, Feliz Navidad. And also you can say good luck in Spanish is mucha suerte, mucha suerte. To wish someone a happy birthday in Spanish, you say feliz or feliz cumpleaños. Pay attention that you have here the letter N with the symbol above it, and you're going to pronounce años. Años. Año is year, and ano, without this beautiful thing here, ano means anus, so do not mix them. Año, year. Ano, anus. All right? Do not mix them. And after that, you have muy bien. Very good, very well in Spanish. Muy bien. And to say beautiful in Spanish, you say bonito, bonita. It depends if you're referring to a noun that is masculine, bonito, or to a noun that is feminine, bonita. So, for instance, if you're talking to a man and you say that he is beautiful, you can say bonito. If you're talking to a woman and you say that she is beautiful, you say bonita. But bonito, bonita, they can be used to define people, but they are more common to, to identify or to describe things, okay? For instance, you do remember the song La Isla Bonita, the beautiful island, okay? So, bonito, bonita is a very general word. If you want to pay a compliment to a man in Spanish saying that he is handsome, then you say, eres muy guapo. You are very handsome. Okay, so when talking to a grown man, you can tell him he's handsome by saying, eres muy guapo. And if you want to pay a compliment to a woman, in Spanish you say, eres muy guapa. Okay, you are very pretty. So guapo, guapa are used specifically to describe persons. And also pay attention that in Spanish you can say lindo, linda. They are also, beautiful, but more cute, okay? So you say lindo if you see a baby boy, and you say, oh, how cute. So, oh, qué lindo. And if you see a baby girl, you say, oh, eres muy linda. You are very cute, okay? So you can use lindo, linda to grown men and women. You can, if you mean that they are cute. But lindo, linda are normally used in this cute kind of way. Okay, it depends a little bit on the place that you're in, but to a grown man or grown woman, you use normally guapo, guapa, and you can also say lindo, linda, but lindo, linda have this, nuance of cute, okay? And, people do want to know how to flirt in Spanish. They ask Google how to say kiss me in Spanish. You just say, bésame. Bésame, stressing the e, bésame. And if you are talking with your lover, you can call him or her mi amor, my love, in Spanish. And if you want to declare your love, in Spanish you will say te quiero. Te quiero is I love you. Actually, it means I want you, but you say te quiero in a very romantic kind of way. It's not sexual as in English, I want you, okay? Te quiero is I love you in Spanish in general. You have another way of saying I love you in Spanish, which is te amo. But te amo is not common. And it's a very strange sounding expression, okay? So a native speaker wouldn't say te amo to a lover, okay? It sounds very strong, very dramatic. It sounds like someone in a telenovela, in a soap opera would say, not a real person in real life, okay? So if you want to say I love you in Spanish, use te quiero instead of te amo, all right? Te quiero. And, well, we stop talking about feelings and we start talking about stuff, because you may want to know how to say car in Spanish. You say coche in Spain, and you say carro in most Spanish-speaking regions in Latin America. Okay? Coche, carro, carro, all right? With this vibration in your tongue. And people also want to know how to say angel in Spanish. And you see, it's written the same way in English and in Spanish, but we pronounce it differently. In Spanish, we say ángel, ángel, because you see here, this symbol is telling us to stress ángel. Ángel, angel. So, Los Ángeles, the city in California, is the angels. This is the meaning of it in Spanish. People also want to know how to say name in Spanish, and name is nombre. Nombre. No, nombre doesn't exist, it's nombre. Okay, no vibration of the tongue here. Nombre. And cat in Spanish, gato. Dog in Spanish, perro. Here you have the vibration, okay? Perro. You can say the r as long as you want, okay? Perro. And you also have the word zoo, which is written the same way, Spanish and English, but in Spanish you will say zoo in Spain and zoo in Latin America. And you also have zombie, which is a word that people are searching in Google. So you say in Spanish zombie, zombie. Okay, both are correct. And to say the number 0 in Spanish, you say cero or also cero. Both are correct. And to say mommy and daddy in Spanish, well, you say mama, papa. Okay? Mama, papa is the way you, well, talk to your parents. You say mama, papa. Okay? This is very familiar Spanish. It's not mother, father, but mommy, daddy. Okay? This is what people are looking for in Google, so this is the information that I'm giving you. Okay? And people also want to know how to say grandmother and grandfather. Abuela and abuelo. And if you're talking to your grandmother, you can also say yaya or yaya. Okay, this is like grandma. Okay, so it's familiar. Yaya, yaya, and yayo, yayo, so your grandfather. And to say people in Spanish, you say gente. You can say gente or gente, a little stronger, whatever you like best. And the word embarazada means pregnant in Spanish. It doesn't mean embarrassed, okay? So in Spanish, a man can't be embarazado. I don't know if the science is making that possible. I don't know. But normally women get pregnant, so women are embarazada. A woman is embarazada if she is pregnant in Spanish, okay? It doesn't mean embarrassed, okay? Embarazada in Spanish, pregnant. You can also pronounce embarazada. And, well, people also want to know how to say English, the language, and also Englishman. In Spanish is the same word, Inglés. The language, English, and also an Englishman is Inglés. And the way to pronounce is stressing Inglés. Why is this important? Because if you do not stress inglés, if you say English instead, you are not saying English, you are saying groin, the body part. So let's not talk about groins. Let's talk about the language English. Inglés. This is English and Spanish. All right? And Japonés is the Japanese language, or men from Japan also. Japonés. To say king in Spanish, you say rey. Queen, reina. And both of them together are the reyes. You see how I with my tongue? Rey, reina, reyes. All right? And you also have macho. Macho is male, okay? So it can be referring to a man or a macho man or to an animal, okay? So a pig, a male pig, okay? And if you mean that a man is macho-like, so you say also macho in Spanish, right? And people are asking Google how to pronounce poo in Spanish. So the answer is caca, okay? It's not an offensive word, it's more a child language, caca, but it's okay. It's not offensive in any way, okay? Caca, just like this. And you also have the color red, which in Spanish is rojo. Rojo, rojo. Okay, but in the beginning of the word. And the color yellow in Spanish is called amarillo. Amarillo. Okay, you see a, I, o. These are the vowels in amarillo. And, well, people want to know how to say hat in Spanish. Sombrero. Sombrero is not the Mexican sombrero. It is, but not only the Mexican sombrero. It's also a normal hat. Okay? So, sombrero in Spanish, hat. Any kind of hat. And rainbow in Spanish is arco iris. Okay, and I did not make rrr. Okay, here is only the tip of the tongue touching the front teeth. Arco iris. Arco iris. And people want to know how to say rain in Spanish, which is lluvia, or also lluvia. Okay. And also garden in Spanish is jardín. Jardín. To say pool in Spanish, you say in Spain, piscina. In Latin America, piscina. And to say beach, you say playa or playa. Both are correct. And to say elevator, you will say in Spain, ascensor. In Latin America, ascensor. To say street in Spanish, you say calle or even calle. To say coffee shop in Spanish, you will say cafeteria. Okay? So do not pronounce it the English way. Pronounce it the Spanish way, which is cafeteria. Cafeteria. Okay? And another word that you can say in English, but it's originally a Spanish word, is patio. In Spanish, we say patio, meaning patio, so backyard. And another word in Spanish that is very common in English is, in Spanish, suave. Suave means soft, smooth. Okay, it has this meaning in Spanish. So I have a bunny picture here because bunnies, they are very fluffy and soft. So suave. And in Spanish, to say correct, right, you say correcto. And if you want to say no in Spanish, saying no is negar. Okay, denying, saying no, negar, the way I pronounce it. And to listen in Spanish, escuchar. Escuchar. To say okay in Spanish, you say vale. Okay? Vale? And you can say let's go in Spanish two different ways. Vamos or vámonos. Whatever you like best. And you also have names of places that people want to know how to say them in Spanish the right way. And the first one is Mexico. I did not say Mexico with the sound of taxi because Mexico is to be pronounced the way I told you, Mexico. Alright? You can say Mexico, soft, with your throat, or a little stronger, also with your throat. So, Mexico. But you do not say in Spanish, Mexico. This is not correct. Okay? So, if you go to Mexico, do not say this. Okay? Say Mexico. And stress the Mexico. Argentina. Argentina. Madrid. For Madrid, you have three options. The first one is Madrid. The second one is Madrid. And the third one is Madrid. Whatever you like best. So, Madrid, Madrid, Madrid. Whatever you like best. People in Madrid normally pronounce Madrid. Okay, but you do not have to if you don't want to. And people from Barcelona say Barcelona. But you may say Barcelona. It is also correct. And, you say Mallorca in Spanish or Mallorca. Mallorca, Mallorca. Both are correct. And people from the beautiful island Ibiza say Ibiza. But you can also say Ibiza if you prefer. And to finish, we're going to see some names in Spanish, how they must be pronounced. You have the way of pronouncing with a deep sound with your throat, which is Juan, José, Jesús, Jorge. But you don't have to make this sound if you don't like to. You can pronounce as Juan, José, Jesús, Jorge. Alright? So these are the names of John, Joseph, Jesus, and George. In the Spanish-speaking countries, it's very common to be called Jesus. It's a very normal name, like Gary or, I don't know, Kevin, okay? Alright, so I hope you liked this video. If you did, please like it. And if you want, subscribe to the channel. And well, I hope you enjoyed this and other materials that you have in the video descriptions to keep on learning Spanish from scratch. Thank you very much and bye.